Welcome back to our YouTube channel. It's good to have you here, guys. Today we are going to do a little journey too. So we're going to journey to a ballerina today. So in this video, we're going to go through a bunch of different tricks to work your way up to eventually being able to achieve a ballerina. And in those videos, I'll give you some tips and tricks on what to do and what to focus on to eventually work your way up to getting the strength and the mobility to be able to achieve our beautiful ballerina in the end. So keep watching on as well. At the very end, I do add in a couple bonus little videos for some mobility, which is really, really important. The first move we need to master in our journey is going to be just a basic climb. But when I show you this climb, I'm going to really talk about the climb in the way that we're going to progress this eventually up to our ballerina. So with the climb, there's a couple different ways people like to climb. What we're going to do is we're going to focus on squeezing through the knees into a climb rather than squeezing through the thighs. So when we do this version of the climb, we're going to have one leg on. You're going to think about sitting into it. You can flex your foot to start with, but eventually we want to do it with a pointed toe, and you're going to bring your other leg up. You need to make sure you're squeezing with your calf and then the shin together, and then we're going to pull up and squeeze in between our knees. So this is really important because when we go into our ballerina position, we do need to get into this position first and squeezing those knees onto the pole. So I'll show you again. We're going to bring our leg on. You're going to think about sitting down into it, squeezing the knees, squeezing the calf and the shin, and we're going to pull up. If you want an extra challenge, you can think about trying to take your hands off in this position. And for some conditioning, we can work on pulling up and pulling down. We really want to master being able to squeeze that position, because when we do turn around and get our arm into position, we need to have that locked on until we have our arm and our back locked on. Make sure you do this on both sides as well, because what I find most often with people is when they change to the other side, it feels really uncoordinated, that squeezing of the legs, so they can't quite get around into their ballerina position. So give that a go first. So the second move we need to master is called the Swan Hold. This is taking our climb variation, and we're going to start wrapping ourselves around the pole. So we're going to start moving a little bit more and challenging that position. So to start this, we're going to bring our leg on. We're going to pull up, and instead of keeping our chest to the pole, we're going to bring it around the side and bring our arms in front and working on holding this position. So a couple key points with this one. When we come around, I want to make sure that I keep the pole in my knees and I don't move it to my thigh. If I move it up into my thighs, I'm going to get stuck in the top of my hip and I'm not going to be able to lean forward. I'm going to be upright. We want to be leaning away. So I'll show you from front arm. We want to be leaning away and being able to lean forward so that we can come down almost parallel to the ground. So I'll show you the difference. So we're coming into our climb, pulling up, we're leaning around, and I'm bringing my body forwards. If I was to keep it in my thighs, I would come around the pole, and this is as far as I'll be able to go because it's stuck in my belly here. So we don't want to be upright too much. We want to be able to come forward a little bit. With this one, bring your outside arm down to scoop this arm around. If you're not quite comfortable in that hold, if you take your arms off and start to lean out, you might feel like you're going to twist or fall out. So bring that hand down just to come around, and then you should be able to take both hands off, lean forward and feel quite comfortable before you can move on to the next variation. So give that a go first and make sure you master it, and then we will do our third one. Alrighty, now that you have done those first two ones, we are going to do what we call a Vomitron, but we're going to just do this on a static pole. Usually you do it on a spin and you create a lot of speed that you do feel quite sick, which is why it is called the Vomitron. But it is also a really good move to help create some twisting in your back, so some thoracic twisting, which is really, really important for our ballerina. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do my climb. This time I am gonna come into a sit and I'm gonna put my outside arm into a cup grip and I'm gonna lean forward. So similar with our swan hold, and then I'm gonna bring my arm behind and thinking about trying to twist. So I'll show you from a different angle, coming around and hooking. You can take this arm off as well, but when you have that hand on, it helps to be able to push your body around. So from the back when I do that, as I come around here, I can pull and I can even look up. That helps to create some positioning for your back to get into the twist. Now, if you can't quite twist around, like my twist is not really amazing, it doesn't really matter. It's just gonna help you get used to what it may feel like when you're trying to get your body into that position. So give that a go, especially on both sides as well, and making sure you're squeezing nice and tight in your thighs and you're trying to pull that arm and look up, twisting the back as much as you can. All right, so we are going to do another move that is going to look very, very similar to a ballerina. So this is like a trick on its own as well, which also looks really nice. I call it the Ballerina Star. So it looks the same position, but it's not as twisty for your body. So it's a really, really good trick to start with before you try the ballerina, so that you know where your body's going to go. It's a little bit safer as well to get into that position. So let me show you what it looks like. So we're gonna climb up. There's a few little things we have to do from here. We're gonna change into a little hook grip like this, and then I'm actually gonna have to push my hips forwards and grab behind the pole. This can be quite tricky. I'm gonna straighten my legs and then take them off and turn so I've got one foot hooked. From here, this leg is gonna come back and we're gonna take the arm off. For a variation, you can grab that leg and pull it up as well. And then to come down, you can just slide down to the ground. So there is a little bit of a transition first, obviously going into this hook grip to make sure we turn around. You can try it from the ground by just coming up onto your tippy toes and thinking about wrapping your foot into a sickle around the pole and then coming up into this position. Making sure that bottom leg needs to stay super straight. You're sickling the foot around, hooking the pole, and that is what's going to keep you on the pole. The pole then comes up by your knee, by your thigh, and then this is where you start to feel what's going to be like for a ballerina coming up through your back. Bringing that back leg up and trying to grab it is very similar to what we do in the final move, where we do grab our leg and pull up without having to be in a super twisted position. Now you can also do this move by bringing this arm down as well. But for now, you're just going to start keeping it in the air, practicing that position, and then you can start bringing that hand down and opening out. So make sure you give that one a go. Again, on both sides, you might prefer one side more than the other, depending on which leg feels better to pull. If you can't quite get that back leg, if you're cramping in your hamstring, it just means that you might not be quite strong enough to lift that leg. Try and think about lifting the hand back first and then bringing the leg to the hand. Because if you reach the leg up and then you're trying to reach the hand, your leg is going to be up there for a while and it's more likely to cramp. For this next move, we are almost at the very end, but we're going to do one more trick before we get onto our full ballerina, which I call this one a twisted rocket man or an untwisted ballerina. So I don't know, depending on the day, I'll just sort of say what I feel. So this one, if you've never done a rocket man, this position is your rocket man with your bottom leg off the ground. What we're going to do to make it twisted is, instead of grabbing the same leg, we're actually going to grab the opposite leg and pull up. Yeah? And it's also called the non-twisted ballerina because your body is not twisted around the pole. So when we get into this one, what we're going to do is we're going to keep the right leg on, and I'm going to come up and come around the pole, grabbing my armpit to the pole. Now you can use your hand on the pole to hold on while you come back and grab that back leg and pull up. So from here, we can hold this, as well as if you wanted to do it a little bit more pretty, you could change the legs so that your leg is in front of the pole instead, so that then when I grab back, my leg is in a prettier position. So it's a little bit harder having your leg in front of the pole, but this is where, from the beginning when we do our climb, using that squeezing, pulling the squeezing with your thighs, with your calf and your shin together is gonna really help. So let me show you from a different angle. So I'm gonna do the pretty version. So I'm gonna do it with my right leg in front of the pole, and I'm gonna come around, bracing with my hand, grabbing my back leg, and taking my other hand off. And like I said before, very similar to an actual ballerina, except my body isn't twisted around the pole. So a good alternative to try, especially if you're feeling a little bit tight, you can still practice what you need to do by grabbing that back leg, by hooking that front leg on and feeling the position without bringing your body completely around the pole. So give that a go, and then we're going to do a full ballerina. Alrighty guys, if you have made it this far, well done. We are going to do a full ballerina. I'm going to show you two different ways to get into it. So I call it the ugly way and the pretty way. There is a few other different ways of getting into it, obviously, but the ugly way is the easiest, and I can break it right down, and I have assisted people that are really stiff in their back and shoulders get into a ballerina by doing it this way. So the reason it's called the ugly way is because it has a flexed foot to start with, but it's going to help you maneuver your body and open out, whereas the other way feels very tight to start with. So we're gonna do this really slow. I'm gonna climb up like I do before. This time this foot's gonna be flexed. I'm gonna come forward into my swan position like we already practiced. Now, my right leg is in climb, so I'm gonna put my right hand down nice and low, and my left arm is gonna be on top just stabilizing. What I wanna do is I wanna be able to come out and hold this position, making sure I'm pushing my body into the pole. My left arm comes up and I twist to open up. From here, my hand can so easily reach the pole. What I'm doing is bringing this bottom arm up, and then I'm going to transition to get it into my armpit, sliding this hand down. From there, I can grab the leg. Yeah? So, what I want to do, just show you facing the other way. From here, around, into the armpit, and up. From there, I can take that bottom leg off, and then I can take that top hand off, and you're in a ballerina. To come back on, a couple different ways. Ideally, you want to hook back on, get back into the swan position, and then slide down. If you're really stuck, you can just grab onto the pole and just sort of maneuver yourself around as well. So a couple things with that one. When I'm in this position, I'm leaning into the pole, and I'm turning my body. So my hand is on the pole, I'm turning my body so my back is to the pole. If I don't turn my body, just trying to get all the good angles for you guys. If I don't turn my body, trying to reach back can be really hard. As soon as I turn my body, the pole is right here, and there's not any strain on that shoulder at all. When doing a ballerina, unless you have really, really tight pecs, it shouldn't hurt your shoulders. It's more of a back twisty move, so you might need to sort of open up their pecs to start with, but this variation will help you get into it a little bit easier to begin with. Yeah? You don't have to take that leg off. You can just take the hand off, or if you want to look a little bit prettier, maybe just take the leg off and keep the hand on until you feel comfortable doing the whole thing. And once we are up there, I want you to think about opening up, straightening up, and looking back as well. And that's what's going to lock you on the pole. If I'm in that position and I'm crunching forward, my whole back is going to round, and I'm not going to be able to get into the best position, and it's going to be resisting against the pole rather than working with the pole. So give that variation a go, and then we are going to do our very last variation. All right, we are doing our very last ballerina. So if you've made it this far, well done. We are going to do the very pretty version. So very similar to what we just did, but we're going to make sure that our front leg is in front of the pole to begin with. So I'm going to climb up my left leg, my right leg is in front. I'm going to come over to my swan hold, and I'm going to reach back, grabbing the pole and bringing my arm back, coming down. So see how my leg is in front of the pole instead of behind it? That's the pretty version. Then from there, we can work on straightening out and then opening out from there too. Making sure we straighten this leg, arch, around. Grabbing on, thinking of a nice transition to come out of it as well. So This one's much harder, and as you can see, I got into it a little bit quicker because it doesn't feel really secure having your leg hooking around like that. Yeah, that feels much more secure, but you don't want to put that in a routine because it's not very pretty. Hook it around, making sure that when you come around, you're getting it right into your armpit. Everything like you did for the other variation, reaching around, grabbing that leg, arching back and head back as well. Yeah, give that a go. Okay, the first little mobility exercise we're going to do to help get us towards our ballerina is going to be on our back. So we are going to lie completely flat on our back, bringing one knee up to our chest, and you're going to bring your opposite hand to your knee. So my same arm is going to be stretched out, and we're going to try and keep that shoulder on the ground. So my right leg is up, my left arm is onto my leg, and I'm going to try and twist over, lifting my right butt cheek off the ground, but trying to keep my right shoulder on the floor. So from here, the aim is to get the knee to the floor, but really the aim is to start getting some twist in the back. So if you bring your shoulder up, it's easy to get to the floor, but I'm not feeling any twist. Make sure you think about how it feels for your body, breathe through it. Try and think about it twisting in the middle of your back. Obviously doing the other side as well. Opening out, trying to keep that shoulder on the ground and trying to get as much twist in the back. Ideally for these ones, you want to hold it for about 30 seconds or so, and you can do that a few times on each side. Our second one we're going to do is going to be on our stomach. What we're going to do for this one is starting by lying completely flat on our stomach, bringing our arms up beside us, and we're going to bring our opposite leg to our arm. So I'm going to keep my left arm out, and I'm going to bring my right leg up and over. Trying to also keep your opposite shoulder towards the ground. If you can from here, if you can reach your foot, you can grab it and start to push out a bit, and you get a little bit more of a twist. The other side, opening out, reaching through, and hold. Just breathing with this one. This one also feels quite nice. Again, with that second one, holding for about 30 seconds to a minute, you might find that the first 15 seconds getting into it, you're just getting used to the movement, you're trying to find where it's stretching, so that's why we want to hold it for a little bit longer. I usually hold mine for about a minute or so, and it feels quite nice, and I feel quite mobile after. Thanks so much for joining us today, guys. I hope you enjoyed our journey to the ballerina and our little mobility exercises as well. Please make sure that you let us know how you went with it. Tag us in some videos, post it on Instagram as well, and make sure you subscribe, and we will see you next time.